Gormagad Lascan Corla. Lascan Corla, yesterday morning at approximately 6 a.m, a house of very significant historical importance in my constituency was bulldozed to the ground. The house I'm referring to is number 40 Herbert Park Road in Ballsbridge, Dublin 4. The reason the house is of such significant historical importance is because this is the house in which lived Michael O Rahilly, his wife Nancy and their 6 children. People aware of Irish history will know that O Rahilly was one of the significant leaders of the Rising in 1916. In fact, he was the only leader of the Rising to die and be killed in battle when he died coming from the GPO heading towards a factory on what is now Parnell Street. The act of bulldozing the building, in my opinion, Lascan Corla, was completely against the historical interests of the people of Dublin and indeed the people of Ireland. The people who are on Dublin City Council, the members of Dublin City Council, had commenced a process to see whether or not this building could be put onto the list of protected structures kept by Dublin City Council. That process had commenced. The building hadn't yet been put onto the list of protected structures, but the council and the councillors were in the process of trying to do an appraisal of the building to see whether it merited inclusion on the list of protected structures. My own opinion is that this is and was a building of such significant historical importance that it would have been added to the list of protected structures. The reason it is and was of such historical importance is not simply because this was the house in which O Rahilly and his family lived, but also because this is the house in which some of the most significant meetings leading up to the Easter Rising took place. This is the house in which people such as Eamon de Valera, Padraig Pearse, James Connolly met with O Rahilly for the purpose of carrying out the Rising which took place in Easter 1916. It is hugely regrettable that this has happened, but I would ask the Minister to identify for us what proposals does the government have to ensure that buildings such as this, which are throughout the country, are protected because of their historical importance.
Thank you, Lascan Corla, and I thank Deputies O'Callaghan and Ward for this very important topical debate. I appreciate that both deputies have considerable concern in relation to the demolition of O Rahilly House at 40 Herbert Park, Dublin 4, in respect of which I understand permission for such works was granted by An Bord Pleanála, the Board, on the 8th of September 2020. However, the deputies should be aware that under Section 30 of the Planning and Development Act 2000, as amended, I am specifically precluded from exercising any power or control in relation to any particular case with which a planning authority or the board is or may be concerned, except in very specific and extreme circumstances, which do not apply in this instance. Therefore, it would be inappropriate for me as Minister with responsibility for planning matters to comment on the merits or otherwise of the Board's decision to grant permission for the demolition works in question, or to express an opinion as to whether the works should be progressed or not. Under planning legislation, the decision as to whether to grant planning permission on an application with or without conditions is a matter for the relevant planning authority or the board on appeal. In making decisions on planning applications, a planning authority or the board on appeal is required to have regard to the proper planning and sustainable development of the area, the provisions of the development plan, any submissions or observations received, and relevant ministerial or government policies, including any guidelines issued by my department. The board, in determining an appeal, decides the matter as if the application had been made to the board in the first instance. Under Section 50 of the 2000 Act, anyone may apply to the High Court seeking a judicial review of any decision made by a planning authority or the board under the Act, where the person believes the validity of the decision may be in question. The application must be made within 8 weeks of the authority of the board's decision, which in this case has not yet lapsed, and it is a matter for the relevant planning authority, in the case Dublin City Council, to decide on any further action it may wish to take. With regard to the safeguards for the protective structures, Part 4 of the Planning and Development Act 2000 gives primary responsibility to local authorities to identify and protect archaeological heritage by including particular structures in the Record of Protected Structures, the RPS. Inclusion in the RPS places a duty of care on the owners and occupiers of protected structures, and also gives planning authorities powers to deal with any development proposals which may affect them. I understand that this building in question was not included in the current RPS of Dublin City Council.
Minister, thank you very much for your reply, and I appreciate that you're limited in what you can do because of the decision of On Board Pleanála. However, I think we need to look beyond the planning decision that lied in the background of this demolition. The more important issue is that we as a country need to recognise the importance of our revolutionary period and the influence that that revolutionary period has not only on this country but on our international reputation. I think we undersell ourselves when it comes to recognising the importance of that revolutionary period. It was an inspiration to the colonial world. When you look at countries which gained their independence from colonial powers, very many of them look to the example set by Ireland during the revolutionary period that we are at present celebrating in the decade of centenaries. So I think we need to recognise that we need to go around the country and ask local authorities to identify those properties within their jurisdiction that are of historical importance so that we can preserve our vitally important revolutionary history.
Thank you, Laskin Corla. And again, I thank both deputies for their response. As I indicated earlier, it is inappropriate for me as Minister with responsibility for planning matters to become involved in or make any comment on this matter as already outlined, as the law simply precludes me from doing so. Planning authorities and the board are independently statutory bodies and under the provisions of the Planning Act, as stated previously, are independent in the performance of their functions. The development works in question are a matter for the planning applicant concern the relevant local authority and the board as appropriate, and I am precluded from and I have no role in the matter. And also the deputies will be aware that the Record of Protected Structures is a reserved function of the local authority system and primarily their responsibility. And in this matter, this will obviously now be an enforcement issue for Dublin City Council and wholly under their remit. Thank you.